Hi Diamonds! Hi everybody! Happy Wednesday to you all. Did you all miss me? It's been a while. Actually it's been 2 days. I'll show you guys zip down first. What do you think? I like it. Oh, we have this. Mm-hmm. Are we all ready for the book reading? I've got 4 more chapters to read. We'll be reading 2 today, 2 tomorrow. White Noise by the amazing Sophia Soames. Chapter 22. Matt. Things were considerably easy. Right, sorry. Already messed up some words. We'll start that again. Anybody who comes, by the way, thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for gifting subscriptions, bits, for following anything that anybody might do. White Noise by the amazing Sophia Soames. Chapter 22. Matt. Things were considerably easier in the week that followed. Con talked more. Well, he communicated more, through disjointed text messages that mostly dropped on my phone during the night, but I was slowly getting to know him. The real him. It was quite scary to realise how similar we were, how our thoughts sometimes crossed like tiny arrows as we'd gone on with our lives. Sometimes I would just remember he existed, and a smile would appear on my face. Other times, I would look at my phone and there would be a message. It might be only an emoji, or it could be an epic paragraph of words. You never knew with Con, and I had started to appreciate his randomness. When he did message, it was because he had this overwhelming need to, and I felt that way too. I shot down the stairs at work and slid into the teacher's lounge area, doing a little happy dance as I grabbed my things. It was Friday, the end of another week, and Con was on his way back. Whenever. Timings were always vague with his job. I was glad he had great people around him. Some not so great people too, but Aisha had started to text me updates, which gave me a warm feeling inside, knowing she cared about Con and wanted him to be happy. Hence, I just had a message from her saying, "In car," followed by a heart emoji from Con a few seconds later. Funny how little things like that brightened my world. Silly things, really. We were not kids, but I loved the innocence of what we shared and sent him a heart emoji back as I got on the tube, then smiled like I'd won the lottery all the way home. In a way I had. My boyfriend was wonderful. The flat was clean and tidy, the bed made with fresh sheets. Yes, I had expectations. We hadn't actually had sex up in Norfolk because sleep. We'd woken up just after midday, my head groggy and Con looking more windswept than the night before. But at least he'd slept, and we'd found someone to bring us coffee. I'd not had the heart to say I wanted tea, but Con had remembered later and spent the rest of the week apologising for not looking after me properly. Aisha had also texted to ask how I took my tea, so she would know for next time. Something about adding me to her little black book of irrelevant yet useful information. I was starting to really like her, and had in return asked her if there was any chance she could put some totally twatty flowers in Con's room with a card from me. I'd even offered to pay, but she'd insisted that there was enough room in her budget to store twatty flowers, even in rural Norfolk. I had no twatty flowers in the flat, though, because we didn't need them. No yellow bucket on the table. I'd moved the gin to a cupboard and filled the fridge with normal foods. Milk, yogurts, cheese and eggs, of course. I'd even bought bake-at-home croissants for the freezer and some nice cereal. Yeah, I was that boyfriend. I changed as soon as I got in and went down to the gym as usual, set up a treadmill and ran with music pumping through my veins. It felt good, really good, like I'd finally managed to run off the last couple of weeks' stress. I grabbed the towel off the handlebar and dabbed my face and neck as I slowed the speed down to a brisk walking pace, letting my heartbeat slowly settle. And I smiled. That's all I seem to do these days. Everything seemed lighter, easier. Or it did until someone threw a towel at me. I looked behind me, ready to serve whoever had thrown it full on evils. And there was my con in his gym gear, just standing there laughing at me while I jabbed every button on the treadmill display, trying to get the damn machine to stop. Just push the big red emergency stop, he said, pointing out the obvious. Yeah, I huffed, jumping off it before it had come to a complete stop, because he was here. I practically ran into his arms, laughing at his huff as I almost tipped him over. Whoa! I planted my lips on his, and there was nothing, absolutely nothing, that could have stopped me. You back? I asked, still breathless. Yup. He smiled. I loved his smile. Sorry about the towel. I didn't want to risk getting smacked in the face. You know, accidents happen. Yes, it's a dangerous place, the gym. Especially when people sneak up on you. I still had my arms around his neck. I love you, he whispered. And I whispered it back because that was who we were, and I didn't care if people were staring. They weren't, for the record. This was a very busy gym, and people couldn't care less about two idiots hugging in a corner. You're wearing the same shirt you wore that day, he said. I remember. Bright red. He was stupid. So bloody stupid. I'm glad you hit me in the face, I said. So am I. Then we laughed because there was nothing serious or adult about us. At all. We were just two giggling fools, and I didn't know how to stop smiling. I smiled a lot these days. Want to give me an hour to work out? Need to do some weights and legs, desperately. I haven't seen a gym in 2 weeks, and my body is screaming for a run. You had a whole beach to run on in Norfolk, I teased, and he put his hand over my mouth. Don't mention Norfolk. I never want to see that place again. Did I tell you Dave went for a walk on that beach and managed to get stung by a bloody jellyfish? He could barely walk. Yet he drove me all the way back here. Didn't say a word. I've now officially named him Silent Dave. He's putting in a report about me harassing him with stupid nicknames. Really? No, not really. He got seen by the medic and had a cooling plaster strapped to his leg. He was okay, but yeah, I don't think anyone on set ever wants to see Norfolk again. Not even Silent Dave. Will you even watch it when it comes out? I mean, the scenes you just shot. To be honest, he wrapped his arms around my waist. It was amazing how comforting that was, having him hold me, the scent of him all around me. I couldn't tell you what we just filmed. The plot is above our heads. Nothing in that dialogue made sense, but I need to watch it because I had no idea what's about to happen. Seriously? Seriously. The plot is a well-kept secret, and we've all signed our life away. Even I have no idea what's going on. Apart from that, it's almost done. And thank fuck for that. Well, I think you should go lift some weights and run so we can get out of here. Get food. Get home. Sounds like a plan. He kissed me again. I went and found the rowing machines and pretended I knew what I was doing, when in reality, I was just sat staring at a certain Con Telford lifting weights in the room next door. An hour and a half later, he was in my arms in our bed. Yes, our bed. And everything was back the way it needed to be. His bag by the door, his clothes were haplessly thrown around the room, and he'd made a big song and dance about putting his toothbrush back next to mine by the sink, where it belonged. He belonged right here too, which I kept reminding him of. His dirty laundry in the laundry basket, his shoes next to mine by the door. We were both freshly showered, clean and naked. He'd ripped the towel off me the second I'd come out of the bathroom, and he was flat on his back while I sat next to him, casually playing with his nipples, stroking down his chest and admiring his nicely swollen dick. Exactly where I wanted him. I bought lube. I said. We'd used up the 2 small bottles I'd owned, so I'd bought some of the expensive stuff, in the big bottle. Yeah, about that. He suddenly looked all shy. We don't have to do anything, I backtracked. I knew better than to push it after how things had ended the last time. I took a deep breath as his hand stroked my cheek, then travelled down to grip my bum. I was kind of doing some research. Okay. And I think I know the basics of how to do it. So? Don't push, Matt. Don't. Even though all I wanted to do was to flip him over and stick my dick where it was desperate to go, and then I would fuck him and come all over his butt cheeks, and every single one of my dirty fantasies would have come true. Right there. Well, almost. Do you think you want to? Fuck me? He asked uncertainly. Do you even have to ask that question? This was not the time to be sarcastic, so I lay down next to him and kissed him. Yes. Yes, please. I mean, I trust you, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little apprehensive. You absolutely do not need to be apprehensive. I will look after you. He still seemed a bit scared. To be honest, so was I. I'll go slow. Be really careful with you, and I promise you, you'll get one of the most amazing orgasms at the end of this. Then what? God help me. He looked terrified. I'm not going to hurt you, Connie. I sat up again and dragged him up too. We were better like this, when there weren't so many expectations, and we kind of switched off the foreplay for a bit. You don't have to agree to anything. If it's all too much, I'll be more than happy to give you a blowjob. End of. Not even that. We can just lie here. I'm more than... Shut up, Matt. He didn't say it in a mean way, because he was laughing at me, and then he was kissing me and rolling on top of me, and I pushed him over and rolled on top of him, and honestly, we were both kids and shouldn't be allowed anywhere near lube. Just do it. No condom. I hate condoms. They smell bad and have that horrible slime all over them. And you said you were tested and all that. I get tested on set before every intimate scene. It's standard practice. We're all good, aren't we? We are. I stared at him, stroked my fingers over his skin. We were good. Totally good. Everything in my life was as long as he was here with me. You're not going away again, is that right? Not for a few months, he confirmed. Well, I'm doing Pride tomorrow, and so am I. We'll be on different floats and in different zones, but we'll both be there, and then afterwards, we'll be together. Maybe go for a drink? Do normal things that people do when they have a day up in London. I want to go for a drink, and have food. I'd really like to do all of that. Okay, let's do it. The drinks or the penetrative sex bit? He laughed at that. God, you're such a nerd. Which is why I love you so, so much. And you're an idiot, which is why I love you right back. I loved that we were like this, just us with no stress and so much laughter, and then less laughter as I got the lube out and smeared it all over my fingers. I'm going to touch you and make you feel all good. Is that okay? He went a little pale, but spread his legs. How do you want me? Just like this, on your side, knees up. Feels weird. Yeah, but it's comfortable for you, and easy. And I promise, I'll take it really slow. He didn't reply to that because I let my fingers reassure him, easing them right between the gorgeous globes of his arse and lightly moving them up and down over that little opening that... Con Telford was waxed. Smooth. Not a hair anywhere. Which I kind of hadn't expected, though I'm not sure why, and I almost said something but didn't. I carried on playing, pushing gently and pressing kisses on his hips as he panted. All good? I asked. Awesome. He made me laugh, but his breath hitched as my thumb put pressure on his hole. I eased off, only to push again. He was looser than I'd thought he would be, relaxing as my thumb made itself a little home in his opening. More, he said. Who was I to argue? I was kind of good at this because I knew exactly what I needed, and I really enjoyed being fucked when someone took their time with foreplay. So that was what I did for Con. I kissed his hip, his stomach, and slowly moved my thumb, focusing on his reaction to what I was doing. His arm came up to play with my hair, and I pushed a little deeper inside of him. Good? I asked. He nodded, vigorously. I replaced my thumb with 2 fingers, gently moving around, shushing him and urging him on. You're doing so well. Matt? I asked. I stopped. Don't stop. More. So impatient, I scolded. He just laughed. Get your dick in there. The fingers are all good, but I really want you in there, properly. Spoilt as well. My fingers are offended. Your fingers are much appreciated, but my dick needs company. Really? I laughed, grabbed his rock-hard dick. Get yourself off, baby. Wank away. Wank away? I thought you were classy, Matt. I'm super classy. I smarmed, grabbing the lube and coating myself. God, I was horny, my dick well and truly ready for action as a moan slipped from my mouth. I mean, he was in my bed with hands on his ass, holding himself open. You want me on all fours or like this? Like this, knees all the way up. I liked this position, liked how I had control. I could touch him everywhere, and I did. Smoothed my hands over his thighs, his back, his hips, leaned down so I could kiss his elbow. I pushed my dick against his opening. He moaned, and I whined, grabbing my dick so I could He moaned, and I whined, grabbing my dick so I wouldn't accidentally come. I almost had, because this right here? Do it, he whispered. I need to feel you. Okay, I whispered back. This whispering was insane, but in a way, I was grateful for the calm. My head functioned better when we were quiet. I pushed, gently moving my body and holding onto his hips. A sound came out of his mouth. Not quite a word, followed by puffs of air as the tip of my dick slowly edged inside of him. Just the tip. I had to pant too because it was so bloody special. I'd remember this day for the rest of my life. The sounds he was making, his ragged breaths. Good? Yeah. I pushed a little further, added more lube to my finger and smoothed it over where his skin had stretched around my dick. Tried to breathe as I pushed further in. His top leg was shaking. I pressed on it with my palm. Gentle strokes, up and down. I knew how this felt, and I wanted so badly for him to get past it until it started to feel good. Relax. Let it take over. It's intense, he panted out. Yeah, I know. And I knew what I had to do. I pushed all the way in. One final slide. He roared. It wasn't pain, just that feeling of being impossibly full. We were joined together, and our bodies were... It sounded ridiculous, but it was all I could think of. We were one, him and me, the Con and Matt of humanity, together. He breathed. I breathed with him, bent over his body at some impossible angle as he grabbed my hand and held on tight. I love you, came out of his mouth. I closed my eyes, let myself feel. I knew he was ready when his opening started to relax, and I began to move gently as his mouth made sounds. Good sounds. We didn't need words now, anyway. My head went into the space where I was just floating, my hips doing their own thing, his hand grasped tightly in mine, and my other hand holding me up so I could keep the angle right. Him half bent over the bed, me across his back, keeping up a steady rhythm of thrusts. I wouldn't last. I couldn't. Then I lost his hand as he slipped out of my grip and started jerking himself off at an alarming speed, and I followed his lead, slamming into him, my dick singing and my mouth wide open as the static built. I loved it. Loved him. Loved the feeling of being so incredibly lucky to have this. Right here. Right now. The room faded away, and my mind went dark, small, twinkling stars flying across my eyelids as somewhere in the distance I heard someone shout. Roar. Sounds that made no sense, but were right here in the madness. Madness. That was what this was. Howling, I spilled my cum inside of him, and it made me feel invincible, like I was the king of the universe, and I held all the secrets of life and the world right here in my hands. I didn't, of course. It was just the orgasm talking. But then I opened my eyes, and he was laughing. Fuck, that was intense, he said. Grabbing my hand, he pulled me down as I slid out and tumbled over him, landing in an uncoordinated heap in his arms. He tugged at me, rearranged me where he wanted me, kissed the tip of my nose. His breathing still wasn't right, and neither was mine. I panted, swallowed, tried to get myself into some kind of conscious state. You okay? I had to ask, because he was still laughing a touch hysterically. I just came, like proper mind-blowing shoot your brains out your ears came. Okay, I laughed. He was ridiculous. I loved it. Really loved it. Intense stuff, truly intense. Made me reevaluate all those sex scenes I filmed. Cass Powell is obviously faking it. In every scene. Thank God I'm not filming any more smut this season, because those orgasms were a crime against queer men. I may have to post on Instagram and apologise. No, I shouted, laughing almost too much to speak. Don't, honestly. Not a good idea. I think it is. I hereby apologise for my very bad acting. He sounded so pompous, and he was waving his arms around. My fake orgasm acting will forever be a blight on my record. I hereby hand back all my awards. I put my hand over his mouth and hid my face in his shoulder. His body was still twitching with giggles. He was so stupid, but so was I. High on love, on sex, on orgasms. Can we do that again? He asked, his face suddenly right up in mine. Honesty all over it. But he was an actor, and I didn't trust a thing coming out of his mouth right now. I love you, I said. He smiled. I love you too. It was funny how life was so simple when you were happy. He handed me the lube. Give me half an hour to recover, and then I want your dick back up there. Doggy style. I want to try all the positions, and then I want to fuck you too. Can we do that? Yeah, we could, because Con Telford was right next to me, in my bed, breathing my air. You hungry? He asked. Starving, I admitted. Sex or food? Both? Neither of us moved, but to be honest, it didn't really matter. Not right now. Chapter 23. Con. I was nervous. Well, almost never, but sitting in some kind of tent erected down a central London side street, feeling out of place wasn't even the start of it. The city was showing herself in her best light. The sun bright in the sky, and the temperature already too hot and muggy, and I didn't even have my Kindle to keep me company. I was sweating, trying to fan my face with my hand. Well, only because I was early and apparently the first one here, which sucked when the volunteers were huddled in a corner staring at me. At least Dave had dropped me off in the right place, and thank God for him knowing where to go, because I hadn't even thought that far. I was used to being met by handlers and being ushered around like a dog on a leash. Yet here I was, on a rickety chair, not a complimentary water bottle in sight. I stuck out like a sore thumb. Matt had gone off with his teacher friends in their minivan hours ago, and now I wished I'd reined myself in and stayed at home. Someone else arrived, whom I vaguely remembered and recognised from set, wearing a rainbow-coloured white noise t-shirt. Our uniform for the day. And yes, once again Dave had come to the rescue, handing me mine in the car and making me dump the stupid posh one I'd had been wearing on the back seat. Lucia had had a small panic about some designer wanting to dress me, but I'd known about the matching t-shirts and told her that I was wearing. Fuck everything else. It still felt strange standing up for myself, saying no to things I'd previously accepted with a smile. The cheap rainbow-coloured white noise t-shirt was fine. The size was good, clinging nicely to my curves, but the girl in the matching one was talking to someone else, while I was sitting here like a big blob of nerves. I had no idea what I'd been thinking. This wasn't my cause. Or maybe it was. It didn't feel right. It had, earlier in the week, when I'd insisted that I needed to be here. Now I had no agenda, no script to go off, and I was starting to realise something I'd never thought of before. Being an actor was easy. Playing someone else? A piece of cake. Playing Connor Telford? It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I wasn't gay. I wasn't straight. I was nothing I could put a label on, and the press would have a field day. Maybe they already had. I hadn't dared to check social media since my last post, preferring to stay in my bubble of ignorant bliss, and now I was going to throw myself out on some kind of rickety ride around central London, shouting loudly about my queerness. The tent was filling with more people, who stared at me while I pretended to look at my phone. Silence. Well, good. Non-silence usually meant drama, and I couldn't have coped with that right now. Another new arrival. Dave. Oh, thank fuck for that. Hey. He was wearing a matching rainbow shirt. I stood up, a little bewildered. Are you joining us? I asked. He rarely spoke, so I didn't expect an answer. I'll be walking next to the float. Support crew. Nice. I must have still looked confused, because he smiled at me. Dave rarely smiled. Dude, I don't talk about things, but it doesn't mean I don't have a life. And I enjoy my job, so sometimes keeping those words on the inside isn't a bad thing. Silent Dave. I was a dick. He rolled his eyes. I could say the same about you, Silent Con. Now I was smiling too. Just two silent dudes running around in a big fancy car. Just two silent queer dudes running around in a big fancy car. Sometimes silences are comfortable. And to be honest, you're a good guy to work with. Easy. No stupid demands. Comfortable. Regular pit stops. No drunk hookups in tow. It's appreciated. Okay, if I'd been confused before, now I felt totally blindsided. Dave threw his hands in the air. Look, my husband works on set too. It's chill. We just keep it real. Private. And that's the way things should be. Doesn't mean anything is different. But I'm really pleased you're here. It's needed, okay? You being here will mean the world to people, so just roll with it. Have fun. And don't worry too much. The world doesn't change just because some bloke rides around on the back of a lorry, but sometimes it can be just what someone else needs. Yeah. Too many words from Dave was weird, and my own words were just in short supply, as my brain seemed to have imploded. I swallowed, and blinked to refocus. You're a cool guy, Dave. Ditto, he said. If you need me, I'll be walking on the left of the float. Then he walked off. Typical silent Dave. Connor! As if my brain wasn't already fried, here was Caroline looking far too serious for my liking as she dragged me towards a corner, slipping us out the back of the tent. I hadn't realised how hot it was inside, and the cool shade against the concrete wall was heavenly. Need a word, she said, sounding concerned. Okay. I had no idea what was happening right now, but I had a bad feeling in my stomach as she got her vape out of her pocket and took a deep drag. You need to get off those things, I scolded her. At least I'm off the cigs. She blew out air. Not that I haven't wanted to go back on them. I almost bought a pack yesterday, having a panic in the car. You okay? I asked. She looked a little unhinged, and that wasn't Caroline. She was usually much more put together than this. She was wearing an unironed shirt tied around her waist, and her hair was up in a messy top knot. Yet her white noise t-shirt was immaculate and tucked neatly into her jeans. Not really, but listen, Con. I'm listening. I grabbed her arms, holding her as she took a deep breath. I don't know if you know, but I've had some interesting conversations. Did you know that the entire set is still up in Norfolk? Everyone is still there, but they sent us home. Really? That made no sense. They have Hamish, Justin, Natalie and Paya up there, the whole stunt team alongside our body doubles. You know Paya and I talk all the time. Okay. I needed a coffee and a sit down. My heart was doing strange things, and my thoughts were making no sense. But Caroline was looking at me, waiting for the coin to drop. Goosebumps formed on my arms when it... Oh shit. First they sacked Sally. Rightly so, because that was the last scene you filmed. First they sacked Sally. Rightly so, because that last scene you filmed? People were worried. It wasn't right. It was fine. I was just over-emotional. You were a bloody wreck, Connor. Even I was worried. Production was having emergency meetings. And nobody talked to me? You know what they're like. Bloody dickwads, the lot of them. I knew you were all right. I can always tell when you're off, but people were worried. Then you posted that thing on your Insta, and now production think you've lost your marbles. Sally was rubbish, but it doesn't matter now. She wasn't rubbish. Well, maybe she had been. What did I know? I just rolled with it and pretended everything was okay, even if it wasn't. But that's not the worst of it. It's been a thing all season. The whole storyline with finding the final prize, you know? The bodies we've been looking for. Now I was shivering because, yes, there was something taking shape in my head, and it made me feel a little faint. Suddenly it all made sense, and at the same time as this was a bloody genius plot twist, it was also so bloody obvious. I didn't know why I hadn't clocked it earlier. How'd I been such a fool? We've been looking for our own bodies. We're the ones, the final prize, aren't we? Rodriguez's final game. Fuck. We don't make it out, do we? No. She looked a little shocked herself, sucking on that vape like it was oxygen. This is the end. Which is fine. I've been wanting to pull out the plug anyway, but this had been my life for so bloody long, and they didn't even have the decency to give us some notice. Talk us through the fact that we're being sacked. Not sacked, I stuttered out. We're just getting renewed. There'll be new people to take the lead in the next season. Lucia already told me. but nobody has actually said anything officially. They never do on this shitty production. The communication is awful. Everything is secret and under wraps. I barely know what I'm doing from one day to the next. You know, I did that film last year? Totally different vibe on that set. I couldn't believe it. I know. I had done other jobs too. We're so used to being here, always in the dark, like bloody mushrooms, that we become blind to how this awful, stupid production works. It's not a good place, Con. Not anymore. We're treated like shit, and the crew are starting to grumble. I know at least 10 people who aren't coming back next season. At least they pay us. Yeah, but the new people are cheaper. Production's being sneaky about all sorts of things, and it's not just that they're getting rid of us, they're getting rid of a lot of good people. I should be relieved. I should be happy. I don't have to resign, but I expected more. She was devastated. I was a bit myself, to be honest, and all I could do was stand there and squeeze her arms in comfort. I'll miss you, I said quietly. You've been in my life for years. She smiled, settling my heart rate to a steadier one. Please keep in touch, I begged, and she shook her head. Con, you couldn't get rid of me even if you tried. I can finally do an internship and finish my degree. An internship. I'll need support. I'll need to call you and scream all my frustration down the phone at you, so you can laugh at me and call me an idiot. You've always been my sounding board, and my brother, and my partner in crime. That's not going to change. And you have a boyfriend. Thank God you finally come out. I was starting to worry that you would implode and go crazy. You needed this. And you know what? What? I asked, trying to hide that my eyes were watering. You're my favourite person in the world. You always have been. I never know who to trust or who I could talk to or what to even say to people. Yet you were always there, making the world a better place. That's who you are. You're my Connor. We'll be fine. She wiped her eyes. I gave up pretending and wiped mine too. You need to come for dinner. I want to meet this man of yours. He's on the Teachers Association's float. Somewhere. I didn't even know where. I was talking rubbish and rocking on my heels. Caroline laughed at me. Yes, to the dinner, I said, trying to make sense of myself. Are you still with that? God, no. That dickhead was shagging everyone else apart from me. And now we need to go ride that float and pretend we're all happy and everything is fine, and that the people we've been slaving away for the past, 6 years? That those people aren't about to royally fuck us over in every single orifice imaginable. No offence intended. None taken, I smiled. I don't know how to feel. It's a bit of a shock, she filled in, giving me a nervous smile and blowing vape in my face. Yeah, but not really. I've wanted it to end for a while. I just didn't expect them to kill us off. Yeah, me neither. I was hoping we'd finally see the light and get married, even if Cass Powell is gayer than this entire parade, and Stella is a repressed, asexual mess. Honestly, I don't know why I've played her like that, but she's starting to make all the sense to me now, and it's made me reevaluate everything lately. OMG, you didn't actually start to think. Caroline, you know that's not allowed. We're actors. We don't think. Seriously, babe. I know. No wonder they're killing us off. And we're not even allowed to play the dead us. I've always wanted to do a death scene. I hadn't, but she was laughing, and we needed that now. And I laughed too as Caroline did her worst impression of dying in disgrace. That's why I'm here, she said, her voice low. This show has done so much good for people, but the production team is a bunch of assholes, and it's all about money, and nobody actually cares about what we do. Like this, we do Pride every year, but it's all about how much sponsorship and how many collabs we can snag, not about giving something back to the community who have, let's be honest, put us here. So I'm thinking, yes? This show changed my life. You changed my life. It let me explore so much of myself, and for that, I am grateful. But if we have to go, then let's go. Let's bloody go out on that float and make today awesome. And then, if you're up for it, yeah? Let's mull on this. Do something together. If we can do a podcast or even just a good interview with some big press, talk about the things we were never allowed to talk about, discuss being who we are, that there are never labels that fit all of us. I'm not straight. I always thought I was, but fuck you. You've made me bloody brave with that post of yours. I saw that, and I wanted to find you and slap you right in that pretty face of yours, because you're braver than me, and I hated you for, a minute or two. I'm not brave, I admitted. I didn't even know why I'm here. But you are brave, and you are here. She took another drag of her vape. That's all you need to be. You know that, right? You're here because you're a great guy. You're here for that man of yours. Because you feel, and you breathe, and you're human. Whenever you wobble, just remember that. You're also here to hold my hand. I need that today. Can you do that? I leant over and gently kissed her, because I needed it too. That connection we'd always had. She was part of me and would always be, and I was part of her, and in that moment, my heart ached. There were things in my life that needed to remain stable, whatever happened, and Caroline was that for me. A friend, the person who would hold my hand, just as I would hers. She leaned in and lowered her voice. There's a rumour in the fandom that you and I have fallen out and aren't speaking. Fueled by production, of course. Drama always makes for great numbers. Seriously? I laughed. So now I need to hold your hand all day and cast longing glances across the float. Too right. We also need to remember to completely diss each other and make our rift obvious. Make sure there are lots of pictures of us looking pissed off. Yes, reach out to touch me and I'll shrug you off with a death glare. Like that was going to happen for real after everything we'd been through together. She threw her arms around me, and I reciprocated, feeling my heart return to where it should be, steady and slow. I love you, Connor. Remember that. Whatever happens next, we'll be fine, okay? You will be fine. You're amazing. I'm so bloody happy you're here with me today. Let's go out with a bang. A big one. Will that man of yours hate me if I snog you on that float? Just to get all the fans riled up. Love it, I grinned. I'll pre-warn him. You do know I'm the best snogger, right? Of course. I taught you everything you know. I laughed, filled with bubbles now instead of fear. I stood on that float and the adrenaline was insane. The people all around me were just like me. Where I'd wobbled and felt like a fraud, I was now dancing around and singing at the top of my voice. Even Silent Dave couldn't stop smiling, walking along next to the float while I was being thrown about. We were all, strangely, family, and it made me want to cry knowing this was the end. However much anger was brewing on the inside, I would probably be fuming by tomorrow, and there would be times when I looked back on this day with bitter tears. I was grateful, hopeful. I fished out my phone, snapped a selfie with Caroline hanging over my shoulder, and sent it to Matt with a heart emoji. Whatever you see online today, remember that it's not real. He replied straight away with a photo of him surrounded by smiling people whom I assumed were his friends. Colleagues. People who loved him. It wasn't jealousy, it was happiness in my chest, knowing that he was loved too, that he had good people around him. I hope he knew how much I loved him. I was grateful. I was loved. I didn't doubt it for a second. Those kinds of thoughts should have made me wobble. Matt and me. We'd only been a thing for weeks, but I knew. I knew I'd never felt like this before. There had never been anyone who made me feel the way he did. Safe. Home. Love. I smiled into the sunshine, listening to the crowds around me cheer. Then we passed a group of people with white noise flags, screaming at us as Caroline wrapped her arms around me. I laughed, and she grinned at me, and we kissed, just the way it should be. We could make our own ending. Whatever happened in that show, we could make today matter. So we did. That kiss wouldn't change the world, but I smiled and waved, and Caroline jumped up and down, and then I did something stupid. Well, not stupid. I grabbed a marker pen from a fan on the ground, signed their arm with a smile, and then I held out my arm and I wrote "I love Matt" in big, thick letters, and I waved to the world. The sun was shining and the music was playing, and I knew, whatever happened next, things would be fine. The end of chapter 23. Oh my god, I miss the summer! That's really making me desperate for the summer. Summer, please hurry up. Sun, please hurry up. I really miss the sun and the warmth. That's the end of chapter 23. We only have chapter 24 and the epilogue left. What are you guys thinking? Yeah, they were really nice chapters. These were some really, really nice chapters. It's really making me want the summer though. Like, I can just imagine, I can remember how it feels being in the summer, being outside, in the sun with it being too warm, and I miss it. I miss the summer. Have a nice night, guys. See you tomorrow.